This is my big transmission jack, one I use on the big truck or differential or any large item like that. This is an input shaft from I don't know what kind of transmission this goes to, but a friend gave me this in case I ever need it, but it's not the right size. This is the right size, this one and this one. And what's different about these is, well, this one's just thicker and has a different number of splines, I think, on it too. I'm not sure. I have to count them to see. This one is the first one that I acquired. Let me see if I can get a close-up on it. I don't know if you can see this or not, but that little ring right here where my thumbnail is kind of a line of where this metal is supposed to be, but it's worn down. This is your pilot end. It goes in the pilot bearing in the center of the flywheel. This one's worn down, so it's going to fit in there kind of sloppy. And what you do with this, and what I've done before, is to get the clutch down. It's very heavy, and you take it down in sections and in pieces, and then when you're putting it back up, this shaft, which has this end of it that splines into your gears on the inside, has that cut off of it, and you just put that in that pilot bearing, and then you assemble your clutch on this shaft. Well, you can't assemble all of it on there. You have to assemble the clutch first on here, because it won't, you know, the splines only go to here. So this, you assemble this into your clutch, which is 2 clutch plates and an intermediate plate in between, and you set that in that hole and just let it hang there, and then you assemble your pressure plate onto the back of that. And it's really a hassle to juggle all these super heavy parts. All of it together is like, I'm guessing 150 pounds. I got the new one on the floor in the garage in a bass scale, and I'm going to put the pieces on that scale and get a better idea what they weigh. But anyway, that was the first one that I acquired. And then a few years later, I acquired a better one that has a better, it's the same size, but it has a better end on it, so this is not wallered out. This one fits better. This is the one we'll be using. So that's my big heavy-duty transmission jack for the big engine. And I just bought another jack, and the reason why is because I'm getting older, and I also hurt my arm a couple weeks ago, and I'm not going to be able to wrestle a 150-pound clutch up there. So I bought this $300 transmission jack from Harbor Freight. It's supposed to be able to handle that whole transmission too, but I'm not using it for that. I'm going to make a clutch jack out of it, because a clutch jack is really the safest and the best way to do this, and if you're not strong enough, it's the only way you're going to get your clutch up there. So that is my new jack, and we'll be making a clutch jack out of this. So what I'll wind up doing is making something that will just, there's some corners that are supposed to bolt onto this. I didn't even take them out of the box. These are threaded holes here all the way around. And I'll just take a piece of angle iron, drill the holes out to match up these so I can bolt it onto this. And we'll come up off of that angle iron, probably about a foot, maybe a little over a foot high, and then we'll weld this onto the back, or weld the back of this onto a piece of channel or angle iron or something. We'll weld it onto the back of that so that it stays up here, and I can assemble my clutch on this, and then use this jack to position the clutch in place, and just it'll be a lot safer and easier to assemble the clutch with that jack than it is trying to hold the pieces up by hand. Let's get these pieces out of this box, see what they look like. Here's my rear main seal. That's the reason I'm doing the clutch. It's because my rear main seal is leaking. My pilot bearing is what this is supposed to be. And this is a clutch brake. This is a clutch disc, and it's got shock absorbers in it, shock springs all the way around. And what that does is, if you let the clutch out a little bit too fast, the hub will torque a little bit and actually spring. This hub can twist in here without this twisting just a little bit and absorb some of that shock. So that's the way a truck clutch works. You have a clutch plate, an intermediate plate, which is this big boy here, another clutch plate, and those get sandwiched between the flywheel and the pressure plate. This is the beast here. Add these numbers up. Okay, that pressure plate, according to this scale, is just a little under 80 pounds, looks like about 78 pounds. Well, these actually go on that way and in between there, but we'll stick them this way because it's easier for now. Well, maybe I was wrong. I guess because of the size of the box made it awkward. Looks like we are, I gotta stick my head in the way to find out, about 135 pounds. That's still a pretty heavy load to be wrestling barehanded underneath the truck. So when you are assembling that, you have to get one clutch on. Let's see if the camera's on here. You get one clutch on your intermediate plate. Which you'll have to center this hub in the middle of that intermediate plate. And then your second clutch on, and then you've got to assemble those and get all of that in the flywheel. And that's why I'm going to make a transmission or a clutch jack, so I don't have to wrestle all those pieces by hand anymore. There's my adapter to hold the clutch. As you can see, I got a piece of angle iron here bolted down to this. The only thing I don't know for sure is if I got enough room between this and this plate to get underneath the bottom of the bell housing. I'm pretty sure I got enough room to use it just like that. I just don't want it too tall. The taller it is, the more wobble it's going to have. So I think we'll go on ahead and assemble it. I kind of need to hold this with rags because the machined edges on this were never cleaned up. It's very sharp and it's heavy, so just the pressure alone on my hands will cut me on those sharp edges. So they'll go on there like that. I'm going to tilt it back just a little more. Looks like I got to pull it forward in order to adjust this screw back. And we'll put a clutch plate on. An intermediate. Another clutch plate. Yeah, you can see we got room under here, about 2.5 inches. So that is my clutch jack. And I didn't compromise anything on the jack at all. This thing just bolts onto that plate. This is my design, my plan, my responsibility. This is not a transmission, or it is a transmission jack from Harbor Freight, but it is not a clutch jack. And what I'm about to say is, if you are not a very experienced welder or don't have access to a person and good equipment to do very good welding, do not make this thing like this, because that's a lot of weight on this. And this thing has razor sharp edges all the way around, and if that broke at the wrong time, it's going to cause serious injury. So I'm not even going to show how I made it. It's just an idea, so that only an experienced welder with good equipment should try to do anything like this. Another point I want to make is that these need to be put in the right order, and one reason why is because the hub spring that twists and absorbs the shock, if it's not put in the right direction, then the shock is not, the shock absorber is not, it's not going to go. It's not going to absorb the shock because it's going to be twisting the wrong direction. The spring's going to be fully out, and you need the spring to be able to compress to absorb the shock of letting the clutch out a little too quick. So anyway, this one here says intermediate plate side. Okay. This one says that too. That means that the intermediate plate goes on top of this side here, and this one gets flipped over and put on the intermediate plate side. Now, this one also says flywheel side. So this side goes against the flywheel. This side doesn't say anything on that side, so that side's going to go against the pressure plate.